Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Soraya, how you doing?
Doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing great. After that wonderful discussion with Chris Cacavas.
Oh, man. Folks, hold on to your hats because Chris Cacavas is always a good time. And he was just so generous and forthcoming about these latest releases, right, Jeff?
Yeah. I'm glad we got to learn a little bit about how these recordings came to be and even some tidbits about a few of these songs.
Yes. And if you're wondering which recordings we're talking about 2 recordings that were released by Bandcamp, one being titled Home Recordings #1, and the second one, Burn the Maps.
Yes, and as we talk about in the show, today, the day that this episode is being released, if you're listening to this on Friday, is Commission Free Friday on Bandcamp. Now would be a great time to go get them if you plan to go get them, because Chris gets more money than he would on any other day.
Absolutely. So go run. Go get them.
Yes.
Enjoy them. And we hope you enjoy this chat with Chris Cacavas. Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff.
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme,
a podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, a grooviar.
Let's get groovy.
Hey, you guys hear me?
Oh, we can hear you and see you.
What's up?
What's up, fool? What's going on?
That's Mr. Fool to you.
You're damn right it is, Sir Fool.
Oh my God, how you
Chris,
guys doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you both too.
Yeah, great to see you. This
Awesome.
looks like the guy on the cover of a new fantastic album that we've got.
How about 2 that we've received in a very short period of time?
And you're digging them?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's very.
Is there more in the arsenal? Do you have stuff that you're holding on to?
Not
and going to
really.
trickle it out little by little?
Not really. You know, most of my stuff, there was that one time I recorded an extra 13 songs for Love's Been Discontinued. I recorded like 26 songs, and that became then Love's Been Rediscontinued. There was one outtake from Anonymous, which I have up on YouTube. It's called My Little Psycho. And that's kind of a fun one. Otherwise, in my home recording archives, it's mostly my electronic music, Chromo Valdez.
Mm-hmm.
But even that, most of it's, posted somewhere. I've had in my life maybe a couple prolific phases, but generally, that stuff's all out there. Having said that, I'm pretty motivated right now and inspired, and I honestly want to start recording the next one already.
Wow.
We're ready. We're ready. Jeff and I were talking right before you logged on.
Yeah.
That this is, we've really been enjoying these albums, and we both have them kind of in heavy rotation. But home recordings, can we talk about Home Recordings #1, please?
Sure.
First,
yeah,
talk about
sure.
that first, then Burn the Maps.
Of course.
Can you share with our listeners what's the backstory to Home Recordings #1? Because is it just a bunch of songs that you had kind of laying in wait, or was this a project that you had envisioned coming to fruition at some point? Because first of all, Jeff and I really like it. This has been one that we've both played a lot.
That is
and now
cool.
Burn the Maps has been the most recent one, only out a couple of weeks. And so, talk to us a little bit about the background of Home Recordings #1.
Awesome. First of all, I appreciate that you guys appreciate these records. Home Recordings 1, some of those tracks are pretty damn old. And there is a way I could figure that out, but I'm going to say, okay, let me start here. So there are 3 tracks on there that I believe are demos from Love's Been Discontinued. We have Tell Me Everything, Follow Me, and I think there's a 3rd one. I can't remember. But anyway, at least 2. So that would be 2009, approximately 2008. And some of the stuff came after that, and some of the stuff came before that.
Okay.
But I don't really have a real timeline on how all that stuff went down. So basically, this is me, having a song idea, or for instance, Dream of Me, which I know Jeffrey likes.
I love that song.
And in fact, when you asked me to play a song tonight, I was like, that one I can actually fucking play.
What?
Okay.
But man, I got a wrist thing going on.
we gotta protect the gold.
Yeah, I think you can even see this one's a little swollen,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, you can definitely
It's
see.
like, I think it's a gout thing. It's going on like in these joints right here. And it was getting better, but then I had to move a bunch of shit and it got pretty bad, but it's getting better again.
Are you in a lot of pain?
Oh man, I've been in some serious pain the last couple weeks. Like can't get to sleep pain.
Oh no.
Yeah. But it's okay. I'm pushing through. It's not, unfortunately, it's not unfamiliar territory. It comes every now and then, and it just messes with my whole psyche,
I had an issue with my shoulder about 5 months ago, and it was the same thing. There was no good position. I just couldn't sleep, and I'm a really good sleeper, and I value my sleep. It messed everything up for me. It was probably a good maybe 2.5 months, and it was terrible. It was
did you have a frozen shoulder thing going on?
I'm not sure. They had me do some exercises and gave me a large rubber band to do some stretching, but I believe it was work related.
Okay.
But the fact of not being able to sleep because of pain.
Oh, it's horrible.
It is awful. I'm so sorry that you're going through that.
Yeah. I think I'm on the upswing now, and I'm doing a lot of I'm doing nothing with my left hand. That's the first thing. I'm taking a diclofenac. I don't really like taking it, but it's the one thing that seems to work. Yeah, this is going to be great for your listeners. And they have this. They have like this liquid over here. It's called Retter Spitz. Retter means like a rescuer, like a Retter. And Spitz is just like, I don't know, like a tip, like you'd say the spitz of a pencil, the tip of a pencil. And it's all plant-based, and it has all kinds of crazy oil extracts in there. I can't remember what they are. Smells a little bit like eucalyptus, but eucalyptus is not in there. Anyway, so I put that, mix it with a little water, put it on sort of a Band-Aid thing, and then I wrap another gauze thing on to hold it on there. And it sort of kind of sucks out the infection. It fucking works. I love it. And that's helped a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Right. So back to home recordings.
Dream of Me.
Right. Right. So, with my electronic music, I'm always messing around with beats, trying to discover something I haven't heard before, running it through effects and this and that. And on that record, on that song, I don't even know how this happened. It was going through some effect, and that effect started picking up a radio station, which is what you hear in the background. And it sounds like I think it's like a course in like Chinese. They keep saying "me ho, me ho," and that just came as I was recording this drum beat, and I was like, "This is freaking genius,"
You, 'cause you're so damn contagious. People look at me like I'm crazy, like I'm acting outrageous. Sometimes I'm not around, and even when I'm here, you know, sometimes I'm not around. So think of me, I'll think of you. I think there's nothing else I think I'd rather do now. So before you go to bed, before you go to sleep, dream of me.
I'm so happy that fluke happened. So now I have this drum beat, and it's kind of odd and slow. It's kind of it's got this funky, dreamy beat, and I'm like, I'm gonna write a song to that, you know. And then this is probably one of the oddest chord progressions I've ever written. It's a very, I think for anybody, but especially for me, it's a very unusual chord progression. And somehow it worked, you know. But the whole song is just kind of a series of coincidences, you know.
Wow. I love that.
Starting with the drums, and then, you know, finding this crazy outer space chord progression, and then trying to find some words that kind of fit the dreamlike state of that song.
Speaking about the words, so in a chorus you sing, before you go to bed, before you go to sleep, dream of me. And I love that. It's the person's still awake, right? So and you're requesting that they dream of you during that wakened state. I love that.
Cool.
Imagery. Yeah, it's really cool. And then part of the words of the song is something like, sometimes the world is flat, sometimes the world is round, right? So to me, it seems like you're talking about like different opinions, or even a same person can have different thoughts at different times in their lives, right? I don't know what you had intended for that, but I love that thought and that imagery behind that.
Yeah, probably something like that, but more likely in my case, it was probably the feeling that sometimes you feel like your life's going along and everything's cool, and other times it's completely upside down, which at the moment for me, it is very upside down, I have to say. My life is quite topsy-turvy. My personal life, aside from all the pandemic stuff, which is really just kind of going by me, you know, like a thing that's happening, you know. I don't give it a lot of thought. It affects my day-to-day life, of course, but I'm not obsessed with it. I'm not that worried about it anymore. I was, you know, for a time, for sure, very concerned, and I'm still cautious. It's not that I threw caution to the wind, but it's less prevalent in my day-to-day existence and in my day-to-day thoughts. Having said that, yeah, there's some personal stuff that's going on of my own doing, of course. It's beautiful and challenging at the same time. That might give you a hint of where it's going.
Let it be.
Yeah. And it's cool, you know, it's like, yeah, I made a little bit of a reckless decision, and I wasn't thinking about the possible consequences, because the thing is, if I thought about those consequences, I would not have made that decision. So it seems I intentionally avoided thinking about the consequences to allow myself to make that decision. And I knew it. I knew, exactly that when I hit this domino, I knew that it was going to lead to this. But I still made that choice to hit that first domino. And, now I'm sorting through the wreckage, so to say.
Yeah.
But it's all good. It's all good.
That sounds like typical human behavior, though, right?
Yeah, you might be right.
Especially if you want to make a decision that you know is wrong, but you still want to make that decision.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that, and right. But I digress. So so that was Dream of Me, and that other stuff, just mostly experimental, trying out my recording skills, just starting something. Oh, that sounds cool. That song, for instance,
Careful Now.
Careful Now, that's it, my God. Careful Now. Again, that was like, just kind of came from a drum beat. And then I thought, okay, what do I play? So I just started playing this silly kind of riff, In fact, that was the one song where I'm like, God, do I even put this on here? But it turned out so raw and so good that I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely going on here with the distorted voice and everything. Yeah.
You got it.
So speaking of the vocal effects, and you noted that on the Bandcamp site about some of the vocals didn't come out super clean, so you ended up adding effects to it. And that, to me, what you added to your vocals on "I've Been Meaning to Tell You," I guess it's like a tremolo effect.
Yeah, that's good.
Real wavy. I love that. It's super vibey.
Cool.
it just makes the song sound really cool and takes it to a really fun place. I love the effect.
Cool. I was kind of, I think, inspired by Sparkle Horse. I think he does that on one or two of his songs.
Yeah, that's the first thing that I thought of too.
You know, and he's a huge inspiration to me. Just massive. Like I can't even give him enough props, you know, for how he inspired me to make this kind of music. And he kind of freed me up, also recording wise. Mark Linkus. I became completely enamored with his recordings, and I still am. I just love them. Every time I hear them, I never get tired of them. A big hat tip to Sparkle Horse and Mark Linkus.
You know, Chris, one, and this is just an observation as someone who's listening. I found the title to be so misleading because let me tell you what it reminds me of. So you see Home Recordings #1, and I just think, oh, this is just kind of like a pastiche of things that were just kind of lying around. It reminded me of like home movies. Oh, this is my home video #1. And it's so there's this very chill title. And then when you dig in, this stuff has so much, has a lot of meat on it. I mean, these are songs that have a lot of substance, and it's almost like you were throwing us off with the title of the release, because I said it seems so chill, but these are not chill tracks, you know. And when you say, oh, you know, I was just kind of testing out my recording skills, no, you're misleading us. Because and I think what Jeff was talking about, some of the effects and some of the things that you discovered as you were kind of experimenting, have led us into this really interesting part of where you are as an artist, or maybe where you were back then, leading us into Burn the Maps. I just think I'm trying to figure out whether you knew that it was tricky, whether you meant to kind of throw us off the scent or not, because
100% not.
Okay.
Really. Because,
so that's just me. All right.
No, really. No, that's great though. I love that interpretation. I do. But no, for me, it's like, okay, like I said, I don't know when this song was recorded. I don't know when that song was recorded. So for me, these were kind of things that were just kind of more or less laying around. I had actually put the songs together, put the sequence together, and I sent it to a friend of mine, an engineer, to master it because I wanted to sell it on tour. So for the longest time, for years, you know, it was just called Tour CD. And
that's fun.
See, that's almost like a road trip mix, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's just called Tour CD, and I'm like, and eventually I'm like, I got to do something with this, you know. It's mastered, it's ready to go. So I'm like, screw it, I'm just gonna put it up on Bandcamp, and then I whipped up that funky artwork, and yeah, I wrote some liner notes, and there it was.
And
I'm so glad that you did that.
Exactly.
You know what? I'm so glad to hear your rave reviews. It really, man, awesome. Thank you guys.
Well, I know that we're not the only ones, but you know.
I think you are. I think you are.
Not true. That's not true.
When this comes out, we said, okay, Chris has gifted us this. But then you pull the ultimate ace out of your pocket. Then comes Burn the Maps.
Wait,
go before we talk about Burn the Maps.
There was one more song I'd like to talk about from the Home Recordings #1, if you don't mind, and that's the Vic Chestnut cover of Degenerate. So that song was originally from About to Choke that Vic released in '96. And I don't know if our listeners know who Vic Chestnut is, but this guy wrote amazing, amazing songs, that a great storyteller. And he has a tragic end to his life, and he dies in Christmas Day in 2009, ODing from medications. And what a tragic life this he had, in addition to being paralyzed from an accident, right, for a good deal of his life. How did you get into Vic Chestnut, and why Degenerate as a cover for this album?
Good question. I forget when I first heard Vic Chestnut, but I was living in Long Beach I started living there around 95, 96. And I knew a local promoter there. He'd been booking me for a long time, Steven Zapata. And he booked a great like rock club called Bogarts. And he had really great taste in music, and he brought great bands to Long Beach. And he's just a super cool dude. And then he's like, yeah, so I got this guy coming through town, Vic Chestnut. Do you want to open for him? Or I forget how the bill actually went, because I played with my band, and I think Vic was only doing like a duo thing or something like that. Did he have a band? Shoot, I can't remember. Anyway, met him, liked him as a person, loved his music. And I think at that point, that's when I probably started first following his music. Some years later, I was playing with Giant Sand, and we were on tour, and we were in New York, and we played some club, and I'll never remember the name. It was it kind of had more like a restaurant vibe. I remember or was it a bookstore? It kind of had that kind of vibe where big glass front. It was more like personal people. It was not a club. It was like a space where they suddenly decided, let's put on a concert here.
Okay.
And Vic Chestnut showed up, and we played some songs with him. So I got to meet and play with him again, which was really exciting. And then I discovered About to Choke, and that whole record just blew me away. I freaking love that record. I don't know if anybody loves it as much as I do, but I really, really like that record. And for some reason, Degenerate just kind of jumped out at me. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try and play this on piano. I think that could work. And that's exactly where that came from. It's like,
wow,
let's see what happens,
I love the cover.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, it definitely pays homage to a great artist, and it's very Chris Cacavas like too. So somehow you channeled what Vic was doing in the song, but still made it your own. So
Well,
Kudos.
whenever I do covers, I've done a few covers in my career, and it's I'm kind of anal about it. It's like I really want to play that tempo. Ideally, I want to play it in the same key. I want to sing the vocal. I want to get lyrics. I want to get the phrasing, because there are certain, if I love that song so much, I want to cop as much of it as I can, but in my own way, And what I've discovered in doing that, I'm true to the original, but it's still my version, I know a lot of people think, oh yeah, why do you do it like that? That's already been done like that. I'm going to do a really whacked out version, I'm going to do it like this, or you know what I mean? Which is okay too. I think a perfect example would be John Cale's cover of Heartbreak Hotel, which is just fantastic,
Right.
But then I also have to think about Todd Rundgren's record of covers, Faithful, and that was more his approach, and that's more my approach. Be faithful to the original. I've done Satellite of Love. I've done Degenerate. I've done Totally Wired by The Fall. And I've done Tonight's the Night by Neil Young.
Wow.
That one got a little trippier. I literally wanted to do a trip hop version. So the drums are pretty, yeah.
So can I ask then, since we're on the topic of covers, so Home Recordings #1 rounds out with a Gus Gus cover.
Oh yeah.
So, and I want to ask, so the track is Jesus Your Pal. That's a 1995 release by Gus Gus. This is an interesting choice to round it out. I mean, the lyrics this is a pretty deep cut. So allow me. Is Jesus your pal? Do you call out his name when your conscience is shivering? Do you need someone too, just like those people who find peace in someone's promises? You sure don't need my promises.
Yeah.
That's heavy, man. So why this song? And then what was your approach in the cover? Was it again what you just said, going for a cover, being honest and true to the original, but with your own spirit coming through it?
Well, it's really great that you brought this up. When you hear the answer, you'll understand why. In the 90s, I was listening to a lot of trip hop. I was like obsessed with it, from Kruder and Dorfmeister to Adam F, Goose Goose, on and on. I was listening to Orbital, Underworld. I just could not get enough of this stuff, which is also, I think, what inspired my Chromo Valdez electronic music. Anyway, I always loved this track, loved it. The whole record's amazing. Now, if you hear the original track, there's no chords. There's no chord progression. So I decided I'm going to sing this melody and I'm going to write chords underneath this melody.
Wow.
So, so there you have it. So yes, it's true to the original, but no, it's not, because I wrote the freaking chords to this song,
Wow.
See, I knew he was going to
That's
correct
crazy.
me. I said Gus Gus like a true gringa, but it's Goose Goose.
Yeah, I think it is Goose Goose, right? Yeah.
Is Jesus your pal? Do you call out his name when your conscience is shivering? Do those people who find peace in someone's promises. You sure don't need my promises. So come and sit on the ponds, enjoy the view of this water where my lifeboat is sinking. La 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 la.
I've never even heard the original.
No,
so-
but that's so it's kind of like reconstructing but deconstructing at the same time, because you were adding something that wasn't there, which is your mark, but like, so yeah, it is and it isn't.
And at the time I recorded it, we just moved into a craftsman house that we bought in Long Beach, California. We renovated ourselves. My wife Rose was pregnant, and we're doing all the renovation, trying to get the nest ready for our boy. She wanted to give birth in the house. She's like, no way am I gonna have a child in an American hospital. I think she actually said, no fucking way. Yeah, so we were doing all that. So then we had this one room that wasn't quite finished, which later became our bedroom. And it was completely empty, wood floor, pretty spacious. And I thought, you know what? I need to record in there. I need to record something in there. And so it's just my acoustic guitar. I'm listening to the drum beat. And I played these chords thinking about the lyrics, so I knew when to make my chord changes and blah, blah, blah. And I really loved that acoustic guitar sound on there. I don't think I've ever home recorded an acoustic guitar sound quite that good before or after.
How did you mic it up?
Oh, Jeffrey, I got to think about that. I never had like a great mic selection. I'm honestly gonna guess it could have even just been an SM57,
Okay.
which is ridiculous to think that actually worked for that.
What about mic placement? I'm curious about that too, because I know sometimes they'll do down by towards the end of like the bridge, or
I generally put the mic around here, kind of coming in at an angle, pointing not exactly at the sound hole, maybe a little more around this area.
okay.
And then so I try to sit in a place, and then I just make small movements. I'm listening in the headphones, strumming, just making small movements, see what sounds best, not too boomy. Sometimes it's maybe about leaning more down, maybe bring this up a little bit, yeah. So,
Oh, excellent.
again, I really don't have skills.
I beg to differ, but it sounds like it comes from experimentation to
totally.
make what works work.
Oh yeah, he has no skills, but he's like a magician. I do this and do that, and boom.
I think I'm going to call my recording studio Happenstance Recordings.
Yes, I love that. That's great.
Oh my gosh. All right, Jeff. Should we talk about Burn the Maps?
Please, I've got a few songs that I wanted to talk about.
All right, we've got songs that we want to talk about. So we get home recordings #1. Then a few months go by, and then what was the motivation behind releasing it now? I mean, is the pandemic comes, goes, and then what has been really refreshing for us, for Jeff and I, is to see, Dream Syndicate comes out with an album and, throws. Do you remember the talk that we had with Chris Cacavas many months ago?
I
And
do.
Chris said, I can't tell you much, but this shit is going to blow your mind. Sure enough.
Yes.
But then like we saw we've seen a number of artists bring out these new recordings, and then you give us Burn the Maps. What was the motivation behind doing it at this time? Was it just like, everything's right, situation's here, let's go? Or had this been planned, like, yeah, I want to do it at this time of the year?
Well, typically, Soraya, as with many things in my life, absolutely not planned.
Happenstance. Dude,
Absolutely not planned. So let me think about the timeline on this record. On New Year's Eve, 2019, I was at home with my wife, and I was just strumming around. It was around 11 p.m., I think. And, just as I do, pick up the guitar, see if anything comes out of it that's interesting. And suddenly I got this chord progression. I was like, oh, shit. I'm like, I like this. And we were just chilling, there was no party planned. We were just going to open up some sparkling wine at midnight and maybe go out and watch the fireworks. And now suddenly it's like a little after 11 p.m. I was like, oh shit, I got to record this now. And usually what I do is I'll just take out my phone and do like a little, voice memo thing. But for some reason, I wanted to start right away a multi-track recording. So I ran to my room, and the first thing I had to do, of course, was get a drum beat, because I always want the tempo to be there first, that I have something to play to. So I got the drum beat, which most likely came from this little guy, the K oscillator, chord K oscillator. And most of the beats on Burn the Maps came from this thing. It's amazing. It was like $100, and it's amazing. Chord K oscillator. Thank you, Chord. Where's my money? Show me the money. Anyway, so I went in there, got the beat, put up a mic, recorded guitar, put some keyboards on right after that. Everything I think was like one take, because that's generally how I work. Just one take from start to bottom. Usually if I get partway through it, I'll stop, erase everything, even if it was good, and go back to the beginning and record it again from top to bottom.
Wow.
So everything for me kind of has to be one take. And mostly the main reason for that is because although I could punch in, as they say, it's kind of more trouble than it's worth. I'm always like, do I punch in? I'm like, oh, fuck it. I'm just going to play it again, And so suddenly in about an hour, in less than an hour, I had probably, drums, guitar, probably 2 keyboards, but I hadn't sang anything because I hadn't written any lyrics at that point. So I was like, okay, whoa, this is kind of cool. First or last track of 2019, maybe first track of 2020. So that one is that's probably the most raw track on there in terms of how quickly it was laid down.
What song was that?
That was Shake Some Chains.
I have notes here. That's my favorite song on Burn the Maps is Shake.
Come on, really?
No, seriously. I've even got it on my notes right here.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a pretty
I love-
prophetic start, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, into the year, started the new one, Shake Some Chains. You know, that's about really getting the ground shifting.
Yeah, and it's unusual for me because I think the other songs are a little bit more up tempo, and that's kind of a mid tempo piece. But Shake Some Chains is definitely my favorite from.
That's so cool. Thanks. I think you said the word earlier, and I think that song is very vibey. You know, that song is definitely vibey, and and lyrically, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I was talking to my wife today. Actually, we met, and I was telling her about the lyrics, and I was saying, you know. This came shortly before we did our trial separation. And I said, you know, and I know we were both pretty removed from each other. And I said, I kind of felt like a ghost there, you know, in the house. Not to put it on her, it's just a series of events that puts you suddenly in a place you're not really comfortable or content with. You know, so that's where the line, you know, the only house I've ever haunted, right? And I guess it's time to shake some chains like a ghost, you know, like, ooh, I'm shaking chains. But what I love about that line is it's a double meaning, you know, because it could also mean like shaking off the chains, shaking off the shackles. Guess it's time to shake some chains. So.
Yeah, I was very curious about that specific line about the haunting of the house. So
That's exactly where it came from, you know.
Okay, I have to ask.
And you may.
Well, I'm gonna.
Fine, either way.
Why burn the maps? Now, let me tell you, my background is in education is 16th century literatures, and the literature of the colonizers that came to the Americas, and burning the maps had a very specific function there. I want to know from you, why is this called Burn the Maps?
Well, as I mentioned, I think in one of my earlier posts about this record, it's a record that was written during the pandemic, but I in no way wanted it to be a record about the pandemic, you know.
Right.
That seemed, it's just not a reason for it, you know. I was never the one who would jump on a trend, you know, or seize a moment, you know. I'm not the guy who'll ever do a record of Christmas songs, if you know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Nevertheless, some pandemic references, you know, snuck into the lyrics or whatever. I mean, it's just the way it is. And, you know, I sing about my life, and, you know, all the borders are closed. The world's just gone viral. These are a couple lines from some of the songs. But in terms of Burn the Maps, what I think where that came from is that in spite of the terrible things that you could perceive about this pandemic, there are also many amazingly good things, you know? People were kind of forced to get out of their routines and to, you know, kind of find themselves, you know? Am I comfortable being around myself? Can I live with myself? And I think I think a lot of people figured out that they actually can do it, and that they actually like themselves, and they actually kind of like this new lifestyle, you know, that isn't so hectic, that isn't so being forced down our throats 24/7. And basically for me, Burn the Maps is, let's redefine things, you know, let's accept that things can be different and better, you know. I think a lot of people have fear of change, you know, and that's understandable. I'm quite a creature of habit myself. But you know, I like adventure, and you gotta, you know, when things get shaken up, it doesn't always mean it's gonna be a sad ending. You know, I think you can find a lot of beauty and in the potential for change, and sometimes it takes a trauma to make that happen. So that's what Burn the Maps is for me. It's, you know, it's all, and then, you know, if I take it a little further, you know, it's kind of like thinking about, you know, the idea of borders. You know, it's like, okay, really, do we need borders? Well, I guess we do. I mean, but do we? Just that kind of bullshit, you know. It gets a little more Rastafarian, you know, where it's like one love. We're all just, you know, one planet, one people. But I don't think that concept's ever coming back.
Yeah.
Would be nice. Would be nice.
It would be nice. Yeah. Yeah. I wish we didn't need borders myself, but one of the stanzas, the early stanzas of Burn the Maps is, I can't control my fingers, I can't control my toes, oh no.
Time to take my hand now, take it all in stride. Now we're gonna run till there's no place left to hide. Can't control my fingers, can't control my toes, oh no. Time to burn the maps like ashes down the drain. Wash away the fear, wash away the pain. The borders are all closed, there's nowhere left to be but here. So tell me everything. Don't have anything but time.
And that harkens back to the Ramones for me, right? Is that intentional?
Well, it was, and yes, and as the Germans would say, yes is ja, nein is not, is no. And they say jein.
Oh. Yes, no.
Yes, exactly. So yes and no,
Sorry.
yes and no.
Sorry, not sorry.
Something like that. Well, the funny thing is, and after I sang that, I just thought, oh yeah, I'm just gonna sing this. Honestly, that was a line that I wanted to rewrite, but it ended up staying in the song.
So maybe a placeholder for a time.
Yeah, kind of something like that. But I'm like, oh, screw it, you know.
It dug roots.
What's that?
It dug its roots in. So.
No, just because I was too lazy to change it. But the funny thing is, it actually refers, well, in a way, I also thought about the Trogs, you know, when I sang. You know, I thought, feel it in my fingers, I feel it in my toes. You know, can't control my fingers, I can't control my toes. So I don't know. It's kind of a little bit of, there's a little bit of a cross reference in there, you know.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, cool, cool. Yeah. I can live with it. I can live with it.
I certainly can too. I mean, if you had a full band on that, it could be quite a punky kind of tune because it's got that energy behind it with your guitar licks. Similarly, with To My Head, you've got those driving guitar parts too. That's another song that I really like. I love the chorus of To My Head. I can't get it out of my head.
Lost of feeling or sensation now. Racing thoughts that might come to my head, to my head, to my head, to my head.
Another thing I love about that song is the synth, that synthesizer that you have on To My Head. It's a great sound. It reminds me of like early 70s rock, but still feels kind of modern too, like something you might hear like on an early Styx record or something like that, or something better. Yeah.
Oh yeah, now we're talking. They're my boys.
But yeah, that's
That's
another
what
song.
I'm not.
Yesterday I was driving in the car in front of me had a license plate that said Styx Lover. And
You
it
found
took
that?
a lot out of me not to say something, but
You found the one guy?
it was a woman.
Oh, okay.
So let's not generalize.
Let's not. Yes.
Well, I have to say, through an unfortunate series of coincidences, I saw Styx live twice. Yeah, laugh all you want.
With or without the young.
Laugh all you want.
I'm not gonna laugh.
I'm just kidding. It was in the 70s, so I guess he was in the band.
Oh.
I would think so. Yeah. I would think so.
That must have been probably I saw because they opened for whoever I really wanted to see.
Ah, okay. That explains it.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh my God, these guys are opening again? I was like, really? But luckily after that, my luck got better.
Now I really want to know, who did Styx open for?
You know, it could have been anybody from freaking Leonard Skinner to the Cars.
But we know
it was in Tucson in the 70s, and they put together the wackest bills ever. You know, it's like, who are we going to get to open for Bruce Springsteen? Hey, call Styx. They're usually available.
That's hilarious. So we know what they weren't opening for Cheap Trick, because Cheap Trick is always the opening band. So it couldn't have been that bill. All right. Well, we were talking about Dream of Me from the Home Recordings #1. Another Dream song ends up on this album. That's Weekend Dream. That's another one of my favorites. There's a really cool story going on here about stealing a car, going to a concert, getting hitched. Something's happening tonight.
I stole a car and we're going to a concert tonight. We can shake, we can dance, and you know the band is out of sight. And we can scream, baby, scream, baby, scream, baby, scream, all right. I'm on the run, but it keeps me motivated. Something's happening tonight. We're leaving town and we're gonna get hitched tonight. I told your sister and she says it's gonna be alright. Dream, baby, dream, baby, dream, baby, dream, all right. We're on the run, but it keeps us motivated. Something's happening tonight. Good things happening tonight.
What's the story behind Weekend Dream?
That song more or less started with a beat again. The world famous motoric beat, the German sort of krautrock beat. Motoric, and then I kind of had this idea. And I wanted to do this kind of John Cale thing on piano, like that. Lyrically, it's more just kind of a fun and games thing, you know.
Yeah.
Lyrically, it's just kind of telling a silly story, you know, about a couple, a gal who gets involved with a guy who's kind of, you know, edgy, kind of a fuck up, and she's probably younger than him, probably much younger, maybe even illegally young, and I maybe or maybe not, and borderline. And then they kind of fall in love, you know, but it's like just this chaotic, just living on the edge relationship, you know. He's probably stealing for a living and doing God knows what. So they steal a car, you know. It's like, come on, baby, we're gonna go out. You know, I stole a car so we can go to a concert. She's like, okay, okay, let's do that, yeah. And then they ended up, you know, both getting arrested, you know, and that's why they're both in handcuffs. But then they have one last kiss before they go into their separate cells, you know. But the other thing I wanted to cop on that song was sort of an LCD sound system vibe, because I freaking love LCD. And I love the fact that, like, he does this really hard electronic stuff, and then he sings this kind of aloof punk rock voice that reminds me at times of Jonathan Richman, you know. I don't know if you guys know LCD Sound System.
I'm not too familiar with
Oh
them.
my God, it's Jeffrey, it's time to get familiar. Check out the last record. It's actually a good starting point, I think, ironically. Normally I would say start with the earlier stuff, but I think in this case, if you're not that familiar, I'd say start with his last record. I think it might kind of blow your mind.
Okay, I'll check that
And
out.
it's called I can't remember the name, but you'll find it. It's fantastic. And yeah, so I wanted to get this kind of pumping electronic music vibe, you know, a little bit of John Cale piano, and try and cop a little bit of this aloof punk style of singing that he has. The guy in LCD, whose name I can't remember.
I love the final piece that it ends up being. I love how it turns out. That's another one of my favorites from the album.
Ah, cool. Glad you like it. Yeah, yeah. I didn't know where to put that, but I think it ended up at a pretty good spot on the record.
To me, that last trio, the 8th, 9th, and 10th track after Shake Some Chains, is a really interesting sequence.
Okay.
And it's just like, now that I hear about where you place Weekend Dream, yeah, I get it in that sequence. And then ending with There's No Reason. The story that this tells from the beginning to the end, you know, we start with rottenness, and then we close it out with There's No Reason.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's true. You know, that song, There's No Reason, basically, the gist of that song is everybody's the same. You know, if you get away from the title, it's not so much about, the song itself isn't about, you know, we should all, you know, we're waiting for the giant asteroid. It's not about that. Maybe a little bit, but mostly that song is me just kind of reconciling the fact that we're all the same, you know? Like I see that guy in the gutter. Now I am that guy in the gutter, and it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's like we're all brothers and sisters. So what's the big deal? You know, that's mostly what that song's about.
Huh.
And with a hint of, gosh, I wish the giant asteroid would come already.
I say Alien Attack. That's usually my go-to. That's gonna be. I'm just waiting for.
Why not both? Why not both?
Well, they have to travel some way, right? Why not on an asteroid?
Perfect. Oh my God, there it is.
There's no reason for any of this, for any of us to be here. There's no reason for any of this, anymore. I was walking down the street, saw a man in the gutter, and as I got closer, he looked just like my brother. I asked him, "What's your name?" He called me motherfucker. Suddenly I realized he's just like all the others. I shook his hand and said, "We'll probably meet again." He pulled out all his guns. I did not run for cover. He said I had a death wish. I said, "I'm looking for a lover." And there's no reason for any of this, for any of us to be here. There's no reason for any of this, for any of us to be here anymore.
So now, because there's something else you need to know about this record, it's really relevant in terms of the recording process. So I did not have songs. I did not have songs when I started. So what happened is I've been recording song snippets on my phone, like I mentioned, you know, where I'll just record a song idea, maybe 30 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. And it was always my plan to revisit these and see if there's anything worth using, you know? So then some weeks ago, before the record came out, and before I started recording, I said, you know what? I'm gonna do it just like this. I'm gonna start with the oldest recording on my phone, and I'm gonna go systematically, one by one.
Wow.
From 10 to 1 or whatever. But it's like I have like, I don't know, 100 on here, you know, or a good 50. So I listened to the first one and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I might be able to work with that. So then I learned it. I had to relearn it on the guitar because I'd written it. Some of these are from like 2018, 2017. So I was like, oh, I kind of like that riff, you know, and I keep listening. I'm like, oh, it has a second part. There's a chorus. Oh, okay. No lyrics, rarely lyrics, but usually a verse idea and a chorus idea. So now I'm listening to these snippets. I'm learning how to play them on guitar, evaluating if it's worth recording. And then I would immediately, if I liked it, start a multi-track recording.
Okay.
Wow.
Which always means, of course, as I said earlier, starting with the drum beat, and then just building it up from there, layer by layer by layer by layer.
Wow.
And the last thing that always comes is the voice. Mostly, well, it's usually the last thing that comes anyway. But in my case, it's because I didn't have lyrics. Now, there was one week where I was so into this, and I said, all right, I'm going to do a song a night. So I would listen to a snippet, I'd start the multi-track recording, and I'd work all night until that was as good as done. And the next night I did the same thing. And I did that 4 nights in a row.
Wow. Wow.
I'm not gonna say it almost killed me, But you know, after those 4 days, I was gone. I was empty, you know, and I couldn't tell you. There's a way I could look at my recordings chronologically, but right now I couldn't tell you what happened in what order. So, you know, when you asked if I could play a song from the record, it's like I don't know how to play these songs. I learned them long enough to record them.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't play a single one of them.
Yeah.
You know. So, but that was really exciting. It was kind of life affirming for me, and it was also, it also, it made me really happy because just to know that I could do that again, you know, that it's like, oh, I can still write a freaking song, you know, which I kind of given up on for a while.
That's really cool because I'm totally familiar with the idea of, so I'll grab my guitar and I'll sit and I'll play and I'll come up with a riff or a progression that I'll really like, and I'll start a recording on something, usually like on the Mac, and I'll do like a photo booth thing and just I'm gonna do 30 seconds. I really like this progression.
Yeah.
So Chris, I have about 80 of these little video clips on my Mac of these little progressions that I come up with that I'll never play or listen to again. So I'm really glad to hear that you've taken some of these clips and done something with them. So
Yeah, you should revisit yours one of these days. Do it, you know.
that I love that you took these and put a bow on them, and even it sounds like you even gave yourself like a time frame. I'm gonna finish this before I go to sleep, right? So,
Oh, that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. And it's anyway at a time where I was staying up till like 3, 4, 5 in the morning every freaking night. I gotta say, you know, drinking too much, more than I should have been for sure. But somehow the whole thing came together, and I was maniacal, you know, not like, I mean, I don't know if somebody would have been frightened or called the doctors if they'd seen me, maybe. But whatever, I was just so into it, I couldn't stop. You know, it was an obsession. And there was one night, the biggest problem was I usually wouldn't start recording before 10 p.m.
oh wow.
I'm like, dude, you got all freaking day, and you wait till 10 p.m. and start. Of course, you're gonna be up till 5 in the morning. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Ridiculous. But hey, that's where the record came from. You know.
Nice. So we did want to let all of our listeners know that both of these recordings are available on Bandcamp. Home Recordings was released in February of this year, right? And then Burn the Maps is only a couple weeks old. But you have physical copies available?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Jeffrey. I have a friend in Copenhagen in Denmark who wants to put it out on vinyl. Actually, there are two guys, they know each other, and it's undecided who's going to do it, but it will definitely be one of two guys in Copenhagen releasing it on vinyl.
Burn the Maps?
Yes. Yeah, Burn the Maps. And I haven't got confirmation, but it looks like a record label will be putting it out on CD as well.
Nice.
And you'll know about that pretty soon. Yeah, this just happened like yesterday. He's like, hey, can I put your record out? I'm like, yes, you can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. See? Oh my, wow. Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
So they're coming. Oh yeah. Vinyl's coming.
So will we know as soon as the vinyl and or CD may become available? Will you announce it through either your social media or through Bandcamp?
That is affirmative. I definitely will. Yeah. Of course, I'll let you guys know. I'll let the world know. I mean, my God, you saw what I did for the Bandcamp thing. I made a freaking video. You know, it's like I hired the best photographer in Karlsruhe. I'm like, make me look good, man.
Yeah.
And
I love the picture on the stairs. That's a great.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too. There's some great outtakes from that whole session we did pretty nearby here. in a place called Rheinhafen. Hafen means harbor, and it's a harbor where the boats come in and they load. There's a mill or like a grain storage place over there. Beautiful old brick building, just amazing, and really old, probably 1800s, I guess.
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, we're gonna shoot it there. I'm like, perfect. Rheinhafen is great. I love that kind of industrial vibe over there, you know. Oh yeah. Well, anyway, so got this guy Stefan, local guy. Everybody's local. Everybody just kind of came to me, or they kind of fell into my lap. All the pieces just kind of fell into my lap for this. Oh, by the way, this is really important. So I've been recording these songs, and one at a time, and I send them to Steve Wynn, for example, or a couple other friends were getting to hear them. And Steve, I mean, I love him. He's really great with the positive feedback. One of my greatest friends and one of my biggest supporters. Absolutely love that guy. So I'm sending him these songs like, wow, this is pretty cool. I like it. This is great. Oh my God, fantastic. I'm like, well, thank you. And then at one point he's like, dude, you got to put this out on Bandcamp. I'm like, I don't know. Do it. He's like, you got to do it. I'm like, oh, all right. If Steve tells me to do it, then I got to do it. So, Soraya, Jeffrey, everybody else out there, if you enjoy this record, you got to thank Steve Wynn for
Wow.
making it happen. Because otherwise, I probably would have just left him on my hard drive doing nothing for a year or two, maybe 5.
Never ever have I wanted to be converted into like a computer virus more than I want to go into your computer. There's probably some, I don't know, over 100 songs or snippets of songs or ideas of songs. Wow, that is really cool though. And, we just think what you do is great. We love your voice, we love your music, and we're happy that you put this out and that we get, this little opportunity to say, hey, go get this. This is worthwhile. Support these artists. And, Jeff and I really support, especially this First Friday movement that they have, where any sales go straight to the artists and they're waiving the commissions. These are worthwhile investments. And vinyl coming, yes, people, you need that one too.
Thanks, Soraya, for that reminder. So the day that we're releasing this episode, talking to Chris, is a commission-free day on Bandcamp. So if you're listening to this on Friday, go get both of these records right now, and Chris will get the most money from it. So yeah, we intentionally wanted this to come out on commission-free Bandcamp Friday. So go get them today.
Yes, home recordings #1 and burn the maps. You need both.
Agreed.
And I've learned from my podcast partner that you don't need just one copy. You need multiple in all the formats they come out in. So we all have to be pending the next notice of vinyl and CD release. I learned. So I got to ask you, Steve Wynn recommended, you did it. Did you enjoy the process of putting it out on Bandcamp?
Oh, I totally did. When I did home recordings #1, which obviously alludes to a #2 eventually. Well, theoretically.
Yes.
Theoretically and practically. So yes.
Thank you. That's how the Germans would say it. Well done. Yeah. Right. I really enjoyed doing that first one. That was a lot of fun, a cool learning experience. But sending out physical copies and trying to figure out all the shipping and all that, that's kind of tricky. I enjoyed it too. Got a lot of, people were into it. They were patient when I, didn't get them out until a couple weeks later. Because all this freaking pandemic started right after I got that up there. Or shortly thereafter, Yeah, it was right around that time.
Yeah.
All right.
We're behind you all the way.
Cheers. I love you guys.
Yeah, we love you too, man.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Chris. All right.
Good
Bye.
night. Ciao. Because I had an idea for that next Bandcamp day, and I'm thinking about, I have another song that's ready, except it needs lyrics and vocals. I already reached out to Steve Wynn to see if he would write lyrics for it, and maybe we share the singing on it. And I thought it would be cool to do a single release on the next Bandcamp day. So therefore, should I do, maybe I could do a little blurb for it now, even though it doesn't really exist? Should we do that? Because and then if it happens, you guys can edit it in, and if it doesn't happen, it won't be in there. Right, and I'd also like to mention that on this next fee-free Bandcamp day, I'll be releasing a single that is a collaboration between me and Steve Wynn. It's something that I recorded in Denmark with a couple great guys whose names I will definitely list on Bandcamp. It's Peter, and Peter. The first guy's Peter, and the other guy's Peter. So, okay, you get the idea. Anyway, so check it out. I hope you like it, and thanks everybody for your support. It's much appreciated.